Watching WGXA Morning News right here on Fox 24. Chicago airports will see a bump in holiday travel this week. Nearly 2 million people are expected to go through O'Hare International Airport between today and next Monday. That's a 2% increase over last year. O'Hare is rolling out a new security feature that could speed things up during the holiday rush. It's called the so-called Clear system that identifies passengers through fingertips and eye scans, but it does require a paid membership. Forecasters are expecting two major storms this week affecting holiday travel from California to Michigan. And a power issue was reported at Oakland International Airport. The power issue occurred sometime between last night, but generators came back on to restore electricity. Security slowed down due to the outage, and as of last night, airport officials say power has been restored to the majority of the terminal complex, but they are working to bring the entire facility back online.
Millions of Americans are attempting to cope with nasty weather this week. Some will be pounded with rain, others will need to have their snow shovels handy. And for those heading out of the house, extra caution is needed while behind the wheel. John Lawrence has more on this story.
Road wreckage in Washington state as dozens of vehicles get caught in a major accident near Spokane Tuesday. Icy roads and an isolated snowstorm are to blame, according to Washington State Patrol. In Nebraska, authorities said they were called to at least 15 crashes caused by snowy, slick roads. Similar problems in parts of California.
My first time traveling up this, when it's snowing. Never really been out to the snow until today. We were trying to make it up there, but they're turning everybody around. I don't think it's gonna be possible.
The National Weather Service says powerful storms are creating hazardous conditions for spots in the western and central sections of the country.
This obviously is our first big hitter for the season. It's not something that's new to us. We're just going to put our boots back on, get our plows ready to go, and go out and hit the road.
A winter weather advisory of some sort is affecting more than 20 million people from the West Coast to the Great Lakes. Some of them plan on staying indoors as much as possible.
Don't drive unless I have to. And I've got four-wheel drive in my pickup, and my wife has all-wheel drive in her car. So slow down, pay attention, keep your eyes on the road.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Now, starting today, Northeast residents will have ferocious gusts of wind. In fact, the harsh conditions may force Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade to not use its iconic huge balloons during the annual event.
And like we briefly mentioned in that last story, all lanes on a highway near Spokane, Washington are back open this morning following a massive string of crashes involving between 50 to 100 cars in about a 4-mile span. No serious injuries or fatalities were reported, but 6 people were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. They say icy roads and an isolated snowstorm that moved through the area are to blame. Now, despite the number of cars involved in that pileup, a bus was sent from Spokane to pick those up who were stranded and take them to a warming shelter.
U.S. electricity from renewable sources will soon surpass coal. Coal has been the cornerstone of the power industry for decades, but its usage continues to decline due in part to the rise of cheap natural gas. The Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis projects a historic crossover is coming in the next year or two. By 2022, experts predict coal-fired electricity will be replaced by renewable energy sources like solar and wind power. Factors like weather and public policy also have an impact on the usage of renewable resources. Now, this report comes after the United Nations issued a warning on Tuesday that countries aren't doing enough to protect the environment.
And we're looking pretty nice for this morning, but rain is on the way. So coming up next, I want to talk about your rain chance and fill you in on what you can expect throughout the rest of the week. Winter storm closing both directions of I-5 in Northern California ahead of Thanksgiving. This is forcing travelers to put their plans on hold while conditions improve. More than 100 drivers were struck in their cars and may have been parked there for several hours. Crews are facing many challenges with vehicle spinouts. As of 1 a.m. this morning local time, the road was still closed. Not only did roads experience issues, but also the Oakland International Airport. There was a power outages that occurred yesterday evening, but generators came to restore electricity. So if you have any family members in California that are coming to visit, make sure to check on them so they get here safely. And for us locally, the biggest thing we're going to be tracking is some smaller rain chances. We're not going to be having too much in the way of heavy rain. I know on the top of your screen, you're seeing some yellows and some reds. That's not what we're going to be expecting. Those are areas of heavier rain. But for us, it's going to be mostly light rain that pushes on in. And that light rain could be lasting during the afternoon for maybe 15 to 20 minutes before it moves on out. It looks a lot more impressive further up towards the north, but remember, all this is going to be traveling almost straight over towards the west, so this heavy rain is going to be staying well towards the north, probably tracking along I-20. So anyone driving along I-24 this morning is going to be seeing some wet roads, and of course I-75, probably north of McDonough, is going to be getting a lot more of that heavier rain. South of there into Butts County and Forsyth, not really so bad. If we look even further over towards the west over here, you're starting to see the system fall apart a little bit, and this is what has been projected for the past few days. It was going to kind of part ways and kind of clear up for us here in the mid-state, and of course I'll take a close look at that radar here in a few minutes too. But let's talk about where this front currently is. It's still making its way very quickly through Tennessee and Kentucky. It will be passing us by this evening, at which point you're going to see a quick drop in those temperatures, probably down to 43 for a low tonight, and shortly after that we'll have highs back around 68. Certainly looks like a great Thanksgiving forecast here as we get into that day. But at least for today, for the traveling day, it's going to be difficult. There's going to be plenty of rain moving in. Again, the middle of Georgia is mainly looking at some lighter showers. Anyone, though, going down towards the south expecting a bit more rain. Same thing with the north. We should be wrapped up with our rain chances by about 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. So looking at very nice out there. Now, as far as how much rain we're expecting, it's really going to be around 1/10 of an inch of rain for a lot of us. Again, most models are keeping a lot more of that heavier rain further over towards the west, but places like Thomaston, Forsyth, Monticello might actually get close to maybe 1/4 of an inch of rain with that system pushing through. It just depends on how quickly that rain falls apart, and we're going to know here rather shortly how exactly that's going to be playing on out. But I really think it's going to begin to fall apart before we get into the later morning hours, giving us less rain than initially thought. Now for today, I'm looking at 75 for your high. Plenty of sunshine out there for tomorrow. Not so much for today, as cloud cover will be dominating in between this morning and later on this afternoon. But at least for your Thanksgiving day, it's going to be great. You're going to have high temperatures around 68. Just a few clouds out there. But one thing I want to point out is that if you like to eat Thanksgiving outside, keep in mind it might be a tad bit windy on that day because of that front moving through right now. Of course, on your 10-day forecast, there's one more chance of rain I want to point out to you. Saturday and Sunday, that's going to be a bit more of a serious cold front. Not in the way of severe weather or thunderstorms or anything like that, but the cold air behind it is going to bring down our temperatures into the 50s for a high on Monday. That'll be lasting throughout much of next week, and by Friday, I'm only looking at a high temperature around 63 or 64 degrees, and those lows could be below the freezing point many days next week. And now here's going to be a quick look at your fish and game forecast brought to you by Harrison's Body Shop. The best time for later today will be right around 2:20.
President Trump visited the Sunshine State yesterday as he pushed his MAGA rally. During his visit in Florida, he spoke on the impeachment inquiry as well as defeating ISIS. Take a listen.
You know, we defeated ISIS, just so you understand that. We defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate. But when we see them forming, we go in and get them.
And new this morning, President Trump is pushing back against those who say he's not actually building a new wall. The president tweeted earlier the military is ripping down an old wall and replacing it with a brand new steel and concrete one, and it's going up fast. So what's the latest on the wall? Sinclair national correspondent Christine Frizzau sat down with the head of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection and brings us more on the wall's construction and its controversies.
In Texas's Rio Grande Valley, work is underway on the promised border wall.
It's a new wall system. It's got integrated lighting, integrated technology, access roads. It's got anti-climb features.
Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Mark Morgan says the project, which so far has been focused on replacing old barriers, has momentum. But the messaging on immigration remains a challenge for the White House. Just last week, multiple news outlets published stories claiming 100,000 children were being held in U.S. immigration detention facilities. Some of those stories later retracted after the report's author clarified those numbers were from 2015, when President Obama was still in office.
What do you think it says that so many Democrats especially were outraged about numbers that actually happened under Obama's presidency?
It's absolutely disheartening when our own elected leaders get the facts wrong. It's absolutely frustrating. And it makes our job harder to actually safeguard the southwest border.
Lawmakers in Congress right now in the midst of hammering out a budget deal, and one glaring sticking point remains over this question: how much taxpayer money should go to fund President Trump's border wall?
Other controversies surrounding the wall include one of the new officials tasked to oversee it, President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and the seizing of land owned by private citizens for the wall.
That's been the toughest part, land acquisition. But we're working within the current legal framework to see where we can expedite that process and give appropriate due process to obtain legal access to the land.
Obtaining the land and building on it, part of a strategy by the White House to build 400 miles of wall along the southern border by Election Day. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
There's a new potential bill in South Carolina that could ban the use of medical treatment for transgender youth. The bill has been filed by State Representative Stuart Jones. It would stop anyone under the age of 18 from going through medical procedures to change their sex. The measure would block surgery, ban hormones, and puberty blockers. However, not everyone is on board.
It's emotionally traumatic. If you know that you are transgender at that early of an age and you're watching your body change in the way that you don't want it to change, can be emotionally devastating.
Now, if passed, healthcare professionals could lose their license if they don't follow the law. The bill is expected to go before lawmakers in January. And it used to smack baseballs out of the park, but now it's a piece of history. Coming up, how one Hall of Famer's bat could be yours.